All right, well, welcome back to Noob School. Today, one of the all-time greats that I've ever worked with, and one of the, I would say one of Greenville's most famous entrepreneurs and top-tier Clemson fan, Mr. Marty Osborn. Welcome, Marty.
Hey, John. Great to be here. Great to be part of the Noob School.
Well, you belong here. You belong here. So why don't we get started with something easy? Tell us how you kind of got into the world of sales.
Yeah, wow, the world of sales. I guess you know it's probably when you're born, you start selling from day one, right out. You know, selling newspapers and working jobs. But probably my first job, I remember coming out of Clemson, is I would drive from Clemson to Greenville, and I would open up the industrial directory, and I was calling on industrial accounts for this guy. Really didn't have a product, and we just made up a sales line. And every day I would call and say, "My name is Marty Osborn. I'm with Texas Instrument. We're doing demonstrations. Would you like to meet?" No. Click. Hang up. Next call. Just dial
The
it for
direct
dollar.
approach.
The old direct approach. Just make a line up and go for it.
Yeah.
And you know, you'd make 30 calls, and then all of a sudden somebody'd say, "Well, what do you do?" And you're like, "I got him."
Yeah.
And that was when the excitement started. So that was probably the first. And then when I started right after that, the guy thought I did pretty well, so he hired me in a job, and I started doing that. And then I remember like thinking, gosh, I am really bad. Like I really suck. And so he put me in Dale Carnegie.
Oh.
And so I took the Dale Carnegie sales class, and I think the number one thing I learned out of Dale Carnegie is I didn't suck. I was better than most of those people
That's
there.
good. That's
so,
good, yeah.
you know, so anyways, that's, you know, in the early days, right out of school, just hardcore picking up the phone and talking to people.
Yeah. Interesting. So you got a sales job right out of Clemson.
Right out of Clemson, yeah.
And then what happened? What happened next?
Well, I just, you know, through the years, we just refined the skill, right? Just got a little bit better. And again, John, we'll date ourselves, but back then I was a junkie for information. And so I would drive around with cassettes. You know, I would get Brian Tracy and Earl Nightingale and, you know, my all-time favorite hero, Zig Ziglar. Like he was my man, right? If you help enough people get what they want, you can always get what you want. And, you know, I would just get fired up, listen to these tapes, and then all day long I'd be banging on the phones and driving my car to go see people.
Well, that's two good lessons there. You know, I don't want to let slip by. One is under the category of head trash, where you just thought you weren't any good. And I think we all think that, and we all struggle with that. Everyone, they just think that maybe other people are better or smarter or faster. And very often that's just, I've heard this before, Marty. You're not interviewing me, but I'll tell you anyway. I've heard it, that little voice, a nice way to think about it is like you're rooming with somebody and they're a really bad roommate.
Right.
And no matter what, they always say, "Well, Marty, you can't do that." Marty, whatever. It's a bad roommate talking to you. You just have to say, "Well, that's the bad roommate talking. I'm going to ignore him."
Yep. I love it. I love it. I think sometimes they say they're like bricks, right? Throughout our life, we've been told we're not good enough, we're not fast enough, tall enough. And we accumulate these bricks and we get this backpack, and eventually we just got to get rid of them and just say, I am good enough. And mindset, I mean, to me, the biggest lesson I learned today, not only in sales, business, and in life, it's all about mindset, right? If you don't believe you can do something, guess what?
Yeah.
You're right.
You're right. That's Henry Ford, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a common theme. The second lesson there, the common theme is if these noobs want to get good, if they want to become Marty Osborn or Scott Millwood or some of these people, is that they're all listening to positive, kind of enthusiastic tapes, CDs, audiobooks, you know, things that are going to make them better. I know you're a huge audiobook listener, aren't you?
Yeah. Just audiobooks, podcasts, you name it, I consume it, I read it. I just believe that, you know, for a period of time, you get to borrow somebody's brain.
Yeah.
And you get to hear their story, and you're like, I could do that.
Right.
That's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And so, yeah, education, learning, you know, number one thing, I think if you're in sales and you're not educating yourself every day, then probably you shouldn't be in sales. You know, to me, I always laugh. It's like a professional athlete who says, you know, well, I'm a professional athlete. I don't need to train.
Right.
I need to train as much as anyone else. And I think that's in sales, I think that's what people have to do.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. And let's talk about some of the things that you've done. I know you and I connected around 2000. Is that
Right
right?
at 2000, yeah.
Around
Yeah.
2000. So I'll tell you my version of the story, but Marty was running a smaller company, a smaller version of the company that I was involved with, and he was starting to kick our ass a little bit. I mean, he was starting to cause us some trouble because of the way he approached things technically and sales-wise. And so we worked out an agreement to kind of join forces versus fighting each other, which was, I think that's a good lesson.
It's a great lesson.
You know, we could still be fighting.
Yes.
You know? But anyway, you joined us there and really helped us kind of get the internet model right and became our product evangelist. Can you tell us a little bit about that period of time?
Yeah, wow. You know, this goes back a ways when things were really changing. You know, we didn't have cool terms like cloud.
Yeah.
You know, we were like hosting or stuff like that. And, you know, I was telling some of our noobs at our company, you know, back then, you know, we had dial-up modems, 2400 baud, and we were excited about that. And we would dream about the day when there was ubiquitous or unlimited internet, right? Can you imagine that? And so we kind of started building out that sort of hosting-based model. And I think DataStream at the time was looking to get further into it. So John came a knocking, and I'll never forget our conversation, John, when you were trying to get me to join, and I was back and forth, and we were negotiating. Finally, you just said, you did the sales close. Are you coming or not?
I was probably just exhausted, Marty. That's probably
I said, John, I'm coming along. So,
that's nice.
Yeah, that was your closing line.
Well, we had a remarkable time working together. I learned a lot from you. And attitude was probably, you know, one of the great ones that you can pass on to these folks is just always positive attitude, always looking at whatever happened as how can this be good for us?
Yeah.
How can we make this good?
Yeah.
So
I call it contagious enthusiasm. I mean, that's, and I have a funny story. I was thinking about this. So I just bought a boat.
Okay.
And I've been looking for a boat. And so February, I went to the boat show, and I was just going to go around and kind of look at what's out there. And I walk in and I look at this one boat, and there's a young salesperson there, and he starts talking. I've never seen somebody so excited about every little feature. And he literally put me into that boat and what it was like to be there. I could see myself fishing and why that little feature and the Garmin on it and how we could find fish and know our depths. And he was so enthusiastic, and he loved that boat like it was his. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm buying. Yeah. Like, I mean, it was just.
You want to get in some of that.
I wanted some of that.
Yeah.
And he knew the product. He knew why it different. I mean, he got me excited. It was a cup holder that you put your rod in. Yeah. Probably every boat has it. Yeah. I don't know. He seemed like that was the only boat that had it and why it was important. And I could see myself taking my beer out and sticking my fishing pole in there. Yeah. And so, that contagious enthusiasm is, I think that's what, you know, people need to really take away. And when you have that, people want some of that.
They do. And it's not, again, just for the record, it's not the product they want, is they want to be involved in that emotion, right? Mm-hmm. They want to feel like they're a part of it. So I agree. I have a hard time doing it myself. I think I'm more deadpan. You know, I don't get as crazy wild, but I totally agree with you. And I think there's a little bit of challenger sale in there too, a piece of it, which is another great book, that his product knowledge allowed him to say to you, this is how you need to use this boat, right? Because he knew he wasn't asking the question, do you want it? You know, he's like, based on what you told me, this is what you need.
Yeah, he didn't go to price. It really is teach me something new, right? That's what the challenger says is he challenged me on things. What do you want to be doing? Where do you want to be going? So he really wanted to understand how I saw myself in the boat, what things, and then he started challenging me and then showing me that things I never even thought about, like, you know, how the live well would work and how, you know, you have, you know, fresh water and raw water. I'm like, I didn't know anything about it, didn't even think about it. He made me excited about it. Yeah. So anyway, it's just one of those simple examples.
That's very good. Did you hire him?
No, he should be selling boats. He's doing.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he's doing what his passion is about, and so sometimes that's finding that,
Yeah.
again, in sales is it's not we can sell anything. I
Yeah.
think we have to find what we're passionate about, what we love, whether it's technology, whether it's boating or fishing or whatever.
Yeah.
When you find that passion,
Yeah.
phew,
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think, and I in the book we talk about it a little bit. Is head trash. Okay, head trash. People think, well, I want to be. I love playing baseball. I just love playing baseball, and so I'm going to play baseball, and then one day baseball's over, and now I'm going to go be a boat salesman.
mm-hmm.
It's like I can't do this because I wasn't good enough to be a major league player.
Right.
That's the head trash. And
Right.
the Marty Osborn thing would be, what can you do around baseball?
Yeah.
Be an agent, sell baseballs, bats or something.
Bats, mitts, gloves, work for a team,
Be
get into
an
events.
announcer, but where you're going to be going to spring training every year.
Yep.
And so you're just around the ball.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. So let me ask you this. Well, let me say for the record, we had a great run from 2000 until how long did you stay with the combined entity?
Well, DataStream, I think, was acquired 2006.
Yeah.
And so I stayed for 18 months more with Infor that made the acquisition. And then I said I had a Jerry Maguire moment. I guess in organizations and in leadership, I think people need to be treated differently, better. I think we need to treat our customers better. And I have this belief about that. And so, I wrote a dissertation like Jerry Maguire, and I literally got up and walked out with my plant, and a few people were going to come with me, and they didn't. And I started a company, and I basically said, I want to build a company I want to work for.
Yeah.
And that was 13 years ago. And today, thriving, we've got 120 just enthusiastic young consultants doing asset management and carrying on the legacy of DataStream.
Right. Well, I'm delighted again for the noobs out there. Marty started in, let's say the mid '80s, about when I did, and had a slow start because you were doing cold calls off a magazine or whatever it was, a directory, and eventually you did some more interesting things, and then you got to DataStream, and I think you flourished for at least 8 years, and then you started your own company, which is just killing it.
Yeah.
120 people. It's one of the larger employers of tech people in Greenville. And I think also I've never seen you so happy.
Oh, man, I'm having a blast.
That's
I really am. And, I think one thing I look back at, and Truett Cathy, from Chick-fil-A, there's a great story where he was sitting around the table and all the people are worried about Burger King and McDonald's. And finally, he just had enough, and he pounds his fist on the table and says, look, if we just get better, we'll get bigger. And I think as individuals, each and every day, if there's one lesson is just get better. If each and every one of us, every day, we just get a little bit better, we're going to get bigger. We're going to have more success. We're going to do this. And simple concept, but it really sort of galvanizes our mind that what am I doing today to make myself better? And that's why I think today, at 60, I'm probably the happiest I've ever been. I'm having the most fun. And, when they say you're having fun, you never go to work.
Right. I love it. So tell us what you look for when you're hiring a new salesperson or entry-level salesperson in your company.
And this is an interesting question because we're going through this now, and we've made some bad mistakes, and we've tried some things and so forth. I don't know if you remember, there used to be a software package, a contact manager before Salesforce called ACT.
Sure.
And they said, ACT, sales is a contact sport. And I think when it's all said and done, sales is a contact sport, and you got to like to talk to people. Because if you don't like to talk to people, no, let's just text them.
Yeah.
No, and it's funny. We have you probably have him on your show, Jefferson Sturkey, but he calls it Alexander Damn Graham Bell. Pick up the phone, And so I have found that people that, early on, and I think you knew this early on in some of your testing is it's just people who love to talk to people, who want to pick it up. Because that's all we are. What did you say one time? A CEO does what? puts his pants on one leg at a time, or a dress on, or a
Yeah.
skirt, or, we're all human. We all get up in the morning. We all brush our teeth, and we're just human. And so when you think about that, sales, sometimes people have that fear of
Yeah.
talking, and it's just, they're just another person.
Right. And another piece of head trash, I know I've had it before, is, we don't want to lose the sale. Like, you don't have a sale.
Mm-mm.
You might have a conversation and maybe there's a sale, maybe there's not, but
Yeah.
take the pressure off.
Take the pressure off. Well, it's funny. I'm like I said, a kind of a book junkie and so forth. And there was a book out, Annie Dukes, and I don't know if you.
No.
So
She's a poker player?
She's a poker
Okay,
player.
yeah.
Yeah, she's one of the best poker players. Won bracelets, but she has a book called Thinking in Bets. And one of her big things is it's not especially in poker, is you cannot control the outcome. In sales, you cannot control the outcome. The only thing you really can control is the process, right? And so they say, what is it? It's E plus R equals O. O being outcome, E being an event, R is, are we going to react or respond? And so there are events, there are things that are going to go on. And so we can't control output. We can't control events. What we can control is how we respond or react. And that's, again, as individuals, we have to kind of think about that. And, when you go to your doctor, do you want them to, put you on medicine and say, well, John, you're reacting to the medicine, or you're responding?
Yeah. I want to respond. That's
I want
for
to
sure.
respond.
Yeah.
So I think that's, again, I think as we're in the sales process and we're thinking about our calls, it's how are we reacting, right? Because, it's Babe Ruth, or Lou Gehrig got to the Hall of Fame batting 300.
Right.
So
Right. So just from a process standpoint, I think if I was 20 or Gray's age, the intern, I was Gray's age, and someone said, read more.
yeah.
Or listen to audiobooks, I would say, okay, it's kind of a general thing. How do you slot it into your daily process? When do you actually do the reading or the listening?
Yeah. So people are going to think I'm crazy when I say this. And it's funny because I have a really good friend who never thought they would do this and now are. But I think it's you get up early, right? It's that 5 a.m., right? Winners get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people say, I just like to sleep. I'm not at my best. We'll get all the excuses. But if you can get up at 5 a.m., do a little bit of reading, do a little bit of writing, and a little bit of meditating, it's amazing. Because at 5 a.m., there's nothing going on. And I actually learned morning I had a paper route when I was a kid. And I loved the mornings because it's so quiet. Nobody's up, no cars, no phones, nothing. And so to me, I just think to be great, if you can get up early, you have that quiet time, not only read, but write. And it doesn't matter what you write. It doesn't matter the quality of the writing, but writing helps me. And I have a blog called martysminute.com. And I started that out of really messages to myself, stories to myself, things for me to remember. And it's kind of taken off. And I've been doing it now for 3 years. Every week on Monday, it comes out. And
so in your case, you get up early at 5 and you do some reading or listening during that 5 to 7 time.
yeah.
And then your day, you've got a wonderful family and you got a growing business, and you just can't probably put your finger on when you're going to be reading
Again.
the rest of the day.
Yeah,
If you
it's
can, you can, but maybe a walk or something.
Well, you can walk. That's why I said, we do fitness challenges at work. We do all kinds of stuff. And, you put your ear pods in and, go for a 30-minute walk in the morning.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, morning is the time. I think it's when you have clarity, you're fresh. And again, I think there's a whole funny story. Like, I'm a Seinfeld junkie. So everything in life is a Seinfeld episode. And Jerry Seinfeld did a thing, Night Jerry and Morning Jerry. I don't know if you ever seen that skit.
That one. Gosh.
Well, Night Jerry, Night Jerry's out partying and everything else. And basically Night Jerry is, screwing Morning Jerry, because Morning Jerry can't get up because Night Jerry was having too much fun, right? I want to stay up. I want to watch that game. I want to play that game. So Night Jerry's having all the fun when in actuality he's hurting Morning Jerry, and then Morning Jerry can't get up. So then he can't go to work and he can't make money. So then Night Jerry gets mad at Morning Jerry because Night Jerry has no money to party with. It's a funny skit, but in reality, it's, you think about things we're doing at night. Well, I can't get up in the morning. Why? Because I'm probably playing a video game. I'm watching movies,
Yeah.
I'm Netflix binging. Well, is that really advancing your career? Is that what winners do? It's not. And so,
Yeah.
and like I said, I have a good friend, and for years he said he couldn't get up. And the last 2 years, he's the most turned on person I've ever
getting
seen.
up.
He gets up at 5, he writes, he blows my phone up at 5:30.
Cool.
He gets ideas. Green light, green light. I don't know if you've seen Matthew McConaughey's book. Yes, he says, and he'll go, green light.
Well, I'd like to talk about that a little bit more because I completely agree with it. But I'll say this: when I was the 20-year-old noob, and it was hard for me to hear this, right? Because I could barely get to work on time. I mean, it was like fighting to drive really fast to get there by 8 o'clock. And it was just a mindset. It was just like you get up, you don't want to get up, and then you want to stay. I mean, I get it. But now, I mean, part of the reasons we do this is we're trying to tell people, we're trying to reach through the hole and say, listen, if you got up at 4 or 4:30 or 5 every day from here on out, and you probably have to go to bed sooner, and you have this maybe 2.5 or 3 hours before the normal day starts, it is literally like you're living a second life. It's a second lifetime. 3 hours.
You're going to crush it.
15 hours a week. I also believe in the 7-day-a-week approach, that every day is the same. I mean, in terms of when I get up, when I go to bed, kind of what I do every day is pretty much the same. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. I mean, I think once you build a habit, you almost can't sleep in. I mean, I get mad. I'm going to sleep in, and 5 a.m. I'm up, So I think sometimes it's more that the habit creates that. Again, Sunday's a little bit different, I think, days, because obviously different people do different things on Sunday, and there's a day of rest and a day of peace, and versus a Saturday. So probably they're a little different for me, but yeah, mornings are,
You get up and kind of do your routine.
I do my routine
every day. Yeah.
Yep.
I do too. That's good. What's your favorite word, Marty?
Oh, probably my favorite word, and I think it's what ultimately we went from our business. We were doing well, but we were doing not where I thought we should. And the word that I think changed me and changed our business was intentional. Being intentional.
Okay.
And when you think about, again, what we just talked about, getting up in the morning is an intentional act. Reading is an intentional act. Writing is an intentional act. Studying, making your calls. If you are intentional in what you do, I laugh because people laugh, but, I write notes. Now, I've learned to go into meetings. Every meeting, I script every call. I think about, I'm intentional in that call. What do I want to have? And people laugh, said, you write all that. And then they'll be like, the meeting went exactly as you wrote it down. I said, well, yeah. Because I let it. I was intentional about it. And so.
Isn't it funny how if you have the list, they'll be like, well, Marty, first thing I want to do, and you're like.
Somehow this call is going your way, right?
And you're like, okay, let me, it's amazing. I totally agree. Why don't more people do that? I do it when I almost meet anybody. I'll take a little list with me and say, I'm meeting with so-and-so. I don't get to see them that often. I'm going to make sure I ask them these 4 things.
Well, it probably is my biggest disappointment for a salesperson that just shows up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
John and I, we show up at the meeting, and John, we're here. And you're like, okay, where's here?
Right.
Well, we're at XYZ. Well, yeah, I get that. But why are we here?
Yeah.
Like, what are we trying to do? And so I think more and more I watch, and it's the old reps. It's every rep. Like, they go into a call. They don't know the person's sister. I mean, we live at a time. I mean, think about back then. How did we know what John Sterling, I had no idea how to find you, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have Facebook and LinkedIn and digital footprints all over the place and Zoom info. And so, we can learn so much about people if we just take the time, we get intentional in our calls. People are amazed and you'll see them react differently, right? Because when you go in a meeting prepared, they're almost like, thank you for being prepared.
Sure.
So yeah, intentionals, I think, is my word, and it definitely is the word that changed my life, I think.
Good. Well, I'm thankful that we got together back in 2000. We're friends now, and I'm really happy your business is going well.
Yeah.
So
But John, it's been a pleasure, and as always, you always make me laugh, and I love your enthusiasm and your spirit. And I'm glad you wrote the book, because you have made a big influence in a lot of salespeople's lives in Greenville. And as I think you write about the Data Stream Mafia.
The mafia.
Yes, the mafia.
You're one of the kingpins.
Oh, man.
Well,
I'm just one of the characters.
Well, thank you, Marty.
John, thanks.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Noob Schoolers, thanks for being here. See you next week.